Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to the fourth and final Planet FPL Correspondent Week podcast of day three. And I'd like to say, our Chelsea correspondent Gary Mantle's with us. How are you, Gary?
I'm good, thank you. I've just heard that you've done two PIF-funded sides in a row, so let's crack on.
Manchester United PIF funded.
Well, we'll get on to how we're getting PIF-funded these days.
I was going to say you're PIF funded as well. Maybe we
Yeah.
all are. We just some of us don't quite know it yet. You are champions of the world, Gary. We're not going to talk about that too much, just purely not because I want to overlook it, although partly I do. But obviously, we did discuss it on our last podcast from the Club World Cup. I'm guessing that was only about 3 weeks ago, was it, Gary?
Was 3 weeks ago, yeah.
It feels mad, doesn't it? That I mean, you're saying you just come back to pre-season training and the games start next week. That's mental, isn't it? None of us got a clue how that's going to work out, do we?
That's right, yeah. It's completely unknown territory. We haven't seen anything like this before, so who
I know,
knows?
I know you said you've got suspicions that there probably will be an element of fatigue will hit in at some point,
Hmm.
but we don't know if that's autumn, Christmas, winter, spring, if it happens at all, because we've got nothing on historically to even compare this to, right?
That's right, yeah, exactly. I mean, we might, for all we know, we're actually still got quite a good level of fitness and we hit the ground running. It's possible.
Maybe so. Right. With you, of course, incomings and outgoings is something that doesn't happen very often. So, just going to kind of skim through these and get some kind of quick fire thoughts from you on a few of these. Obviously, Joao Pedro and Liam Delap signed as forwards. We're going to hold that conversation back for a bit more fancy relevance in a bit. Jamie Gittens signed from Borussia Dortmund. How much do you see him being involved early on?
I wouldn't have thought a massive amount early on. He'll definitely get games, but I don't think he's going to go straight in the team. I wouldn't expect him to be starting in game week one. Um, I'm not even sure that he's second choice necessarily because you've got a few versatile players like Joao Pedro to play in that position. Obviously, so he plays as a left winger, right-footed left winger. Likes to be on one versus one dribbler. He's basically the Sancho replacement, and we're hoping that he's going to be better than Sancho.
Okay.
But I can't imagine he goes straight into the side.
Okay. William Esteval from Palmeiras, young boy.
Hmm.
We've seen players not celebrate after leaving clubs and scoring. He was about to join you, scored, and didn't hold back at all. How likely is he to be involved in the squad early on?
So he's obviously so we've only just come back to training on Monday, and what they did, they tweeted out a picture that he was in, but they weren't supposed to because they hadn't done their official announcement. You know how social media is these days; they
Yeah.
want to do the big announcement post. But as part of that, it's been said that he's expected to be part of the first team. So again, he's not going to start game week one, but he's basically the Madueke replacement.
Okay. So he expects high
Whereas
involvement for him.
um, a good level of involvement, yeah, I think he's going to get game. He's going to see minutes. Again, I can't imagine him starting straight away. But he will. He's supposed to be part of the first team squad, unlike someone like Kendry Paez, who we also signed, who's gone out to Strasbourg. I think
Okay.
the plan is that Esteval is going to stay.
Okay. Jarell Hatto signed left back, we believe. I suggested probably long term successor for Marc Cucurella. And when I say long term, I'm not even necessarily saying this season. Is that how you see it?
I don't see it as a successor. I mean, Cucurella's only 27. I know for Chelsea that's old, and he
That's
is literally,
geriatric, mate.
well, he's our oldest player.
I
He's our
presume you've
oldest
got
out.
to sell him quickly.
Yeah. Um, but no, it's because that was actually the one position. I know there's the whole jokes about how many players that we've got, but you look at the actual first team squad versus the overall squad, and that was a position that we were lacking any sort of backup. We've all been saying for a while, like, what are we going to do if Cucurella can't play? We don't have anybody else that, like, look at last season, we were playing, Gusto was playing there, and Reece James was playing there. It's like we really needed somebody to play that position because putting Levi Colwill there is a little bit awkward. So I thought it was a really smart signing because he's kind of the backup for Cucurella and for Colwill, I think. So he's again, don't imagine that he's going to start game week one, but I do think he's going to get minutes. So I thought it was a position that we needed. You need to take the pressure off Cucurella. He just played like every minute of every game towards the end of the season. He was brilliant at it, but how long does that carry on for? So
Yeah, especially when
yeah,
he's so old.
I know.
Um, Dario Esajo, what do we know?
Mm. So he's like a defensive midfielder. Um, Now I don't know if he's supposed to be the back. To be honest, I've not seen enough of him to know how he plays. If he's like a more of a Lavia than a Caicedo, which I think he is in terms of like Caicedo. What I mean by that, obviously, Caicedo's got a lot of energy, covers a lot of ground on the pitch. Lavia doesn't, but he plays a lot of the game in his head, sort of thing. I don't know what Asugo's like. Again, he's been brought in as a backup. He's quite young. He's quite big as well. Um, Essentially fulfilling the role that Ugochukwu was brought in to fulfill, who we're going to get onto as part of the outgoings. But he's not a threat to the first team, as in that he's going to take somebody's place. But again, hopefully he gets some minutes.
Right, outgoings. This feels like it could be a whole bloody podcast in itself, so we'll keep it quite short. Kepa's gone to Arsenal. What are your thoughts
Mm.
on Petrovic, who's obviously gone to Bournemouth, and actually, if you'd consider him for FPL?
Um, if you think that Bournemouth, like he's going to play all the time for Bournemouth, he was all right for Chelsea. I think it kind of gets talked up how good he was because he wasn't that good. He was all right, but for some reason people just don't like Robert Sanchez. They were the two goalkeepers that shared the season under Pochettino when we conceded the most goals that we've ever conceded in a Premier League season. But he did really well at Strasbourg last season. And he's an example. I know people don't like the idea of our model working, but he's an example of our model working. We've sold him for more money than we bought him for. Nobody had heard of him. He came in, played a bit, gone out on loan, and we sold him. I think he's a good signing by Bournemouth. Um, I think he's uh, probably shot stopping is quite a good trait of his, and that's how you're going to get points in FPL. So I think he's, yeah,
I
in
tell you what, I
that
did
regard, I
mean
think
to
he's
ask
decent.
you on those players who've joined your club is which one you think will join Arsenal first?
Um, so that was yeah. There's been tweets about that. Who was it? They were yeah, because they were saying sign Garnacho, and then if it doesn't work out, then we'll just sell him to Arsenal.
Valentin
It's fine.
Barco's joined Strasbourg. Welcome to Arsenal.
That's it. Yeah.
Go on
Um,
then. Thoughts on
mm.
Noni Madueke? Because it's another one. Obviously, it's profit on. I'm surprised that you've let him go, personally.
Yeah, I didn't want him to go necessarily, but I still felt that we wanted him to kick on a little bit, and we just didn't see that happen. I think he's a good player. I think his raw attributes are there. Um, I think we just wanted to see that kind of like tie together a bit more and like push to really like get a first team spot, and he hasn't. And then he was getting moved out to the left, which I don't know if he liked or not, and I don't know if that's where he's going to play for Arsenal. I don't know, but we got good money for him. I think that is part of the model. If somebody comes in and pays what we think they're worth to us, then we're going to sell them. And he's not indispensable or anything like that. He's I don't know if there was any sort of issue with like attitude. We didn't really see it under Maresca, but remember the end of the Pochettino season where he was fighting over penalties. The one against Everton, the one against Man United that nobody saw because they didn't show it on television, but exactly the same thing happened. It's like there's a bit of a ego there, but I think that's good. Like, give me a player with an ego over somebody like Mudryk who just shrinks as soon as things like go wrong for him. I'd much rather that in a footballer personally. So I don't mind him going. I've got no hatred towards him. Like we got a good fee for him at the end of the day.
As you've done for Joao Felix.
Yeah.
Strange footnote in Chelsea's history, he feels like.
Oh, his whole career is like just a
Yeah.
strange career, and like even his contract is 2 years. He's in his mid-20s and he signed a 2-year contract in Saudi. Now, what I haven't checked is I don't know how long Ronaldo's contract is. I don't know if he's like literally signed for the exact same period that Ronaldo's there, and then that's him done. But I don't know. Someone paid us for him. That'll do. We didn't want him anymore. They didn't like his attitude. Um, Chelsea fans weren't really on board with him. You like when you first watch him play, you're like, this is a really talented footballer, and like his skills are like his, his control, everything like that, little nutmegs. But get to the final third, it's like, is there any end product in this? And how long do you wait? Because he's mid-20s now, and this has happened. This is just a theme throughout his whole career. So yeah, getting money for him from, as I said, from Piff was nice.
Let's talk a couple of others who I don't think are quite done officially yet at time of recording Wednesday morning, but just want to get a kind of quick snapshot of opinions on a few of them for you. Two players going to Burnley, we think, Lesia Gochukwu and Armando Broya. Neither got prices yet. Any thoughts on how they'll do?
So Ugochukwu is like he's supposed to be a defensive sort of stopper. So I don't know if he'll, under the new bonus system, if he'll do all right there. I think he's a decent enough player. Like he didn't look out of place in our first team, but then we weren't that good at the time. So maybe that's not saying much. I think he's a good Premier League player. I don't think Southampton had any complaints about him when they had him last season. Um, and yeah, he's massive. So it's like he's got the physicality to play in the Premier League in the same way that Broja should have, except it's pretty well documented that he can't stay fit. He he got a stupid injury when he was playing for Everton as well. I can't remember what he did. It was just something innocuous, like passing the ball or something, and he's injured. So I mean I hope he does well. Because he did show quite a lot of potential, but yeah, the injuries have caught up with him. Um, I can't imagine that he's particularly an FPL option, but
No,
who
well, they haven't got
knows?
that. Those two haven't got prices yet, so they're not going to come in at the bottom price. Whereas one player who
No,
has that he's more interesting maybe is Mark Goo. Is it Goo? Is it Gooey? What is it, Gary? First and
I don't
foremost.
know. We had this conversation in last preseason, and I still haven't found out. Yeah,
I might just call him
he,
Mark. 4.5 forward, going to Sunderland,
hmm,
with heavy speculation that there's penalisation clauses against Sunderland
yeah,
if he doesn't
yeah.
play enough minutes, which is really encouraging. We don't quite know exactly how that looks like as yet, but I'm pretty sure it will come out. 'Cause you had something very similar. I want to say Breuer went to Fulham.
Yeah, which I think a lot of
Yeah,
people have forgotten that Broja went to Fulham, but yes, he
it's
did.
easy
And that,
done.
well, because they didn't play him, they just paid us the clause in the end.
What do you make of Go? It's probably difficult for you to know what kind of level he'd be at versus Sunderland other attackers, but what do you think of him?
No, well, so it just came up on on the Athletic today. So one of the things that they've said is apparently clubs were interested in buying him, and Chelsea said no. They said they wanted to loan him, so they obviously do see something there for the future. He came through at Barcelona, which is like automatically sounds good, doesn't it? And he played a little bit in their first team. We bought him because his release clause was really low. Bought him for like 5 million. He played a bit in our first team, mainly in the Conference League. And then he would have started towards the end of the season, except he got injured just after Nicholas Jackson got injured. So um, that sort of scuppered his chances. We haven't seen him for a while, but he's still quite raw. I'd really hope that he gets games at Sunderland. Like, really hope that he can crack on and develop there. Yeah, I think it was Ipswich apparently were looking to buy him, obviously because we bought Delap. But Chelsea said no, they want to keep hold of him.
That's got to be a standout 4.5 forward if someone wants one at the moment, doesn't it? Whether he starts or not.
You'll have to ask Sunderland. That's it. That's what it comes down to, isn't it? If he's not going to start, then it doesn't make a difference,
Okay.
does it?
Um, Time recording, it sounds very likely that Keenan Dewsbury Hall is going to Everton. Now, this might blow a few little bits open in terms of FPL drafts because he's 5 million. And if he
Mm.
plays the position that he played for Leicester, that's quite interesting, I would suggest.
Yeah, but I don't know where he fits in with Dwight McNeil as well. Are they both going to play sort of as two tens,
Well,
and
I
then in
think
Dyes,
McNeil would be more seen as a probably wide right and Dye probably
so he
more to
goes to the
the
right,
left.
and
We'll see
yeah.
what Sean says, but my instinct on it is that Dewsbury Hall would, once he gets in the team, and it's worth saying that might not be immediate, would probably play a similar position to what he played at Leicester, I think.
So I think he's an all right player. I just don't ever think he was good enough for Chelsea and what Chelsea want to be. But his attitude was really good. Apparently the players quite liked him. Fans, there's some that don't like him just because of the association with Maresca, and they didn't like the direction that the club seemed to be going in with the transfers last season. But actually, if you just analyze him on like what I've seen, he was all right, but also just not good enough. You see, like some of our better players, you're like, yeah, he's levels below them. But again, good attitude, um, and I mean, one of the plus things at Chelsea was that he worked well with the manager's plans because he'd worked with him the year before. So you knew Maresca knew what he was going to get out of Dewsbury Hall, so he knew when to bring him on and stuff. So yeah,
What
I hope
else?
he does well.
What else are we expecting here? I mean, are all these sales being funded to buy Isak, are they, or like
No,
what's going on here, Gary? I should quickly say as well, because obviously just recorded with Alex and Sai on the last two Correspondent Week podcasts, and that is a continually moving door with Sesko, who now at the time of this recording looks more likely to go to Manchester United.
yeah. So this is what will probably set off a chain reaction. I'm not Clayton, so I'm not going to sing the song Chain Reaction. I can leave all the high-pitched female singing to Clayton whenever he's back. But if
Next
Man
week,
United,
possibly, by the way.
there you go. If Man United get Sesko and Isak's going to move to Liverpool, then I would guess that Newcastle are going to put a bid in for Jackson because we will sell Jackson if we get the right price. And who's going to give us the right price? Well, our Saudi friends again, because that's what usually happens. And then I think other incomings, such as, well, Xavi Simons, and Garnacho are based on Jackson and Nkunku going. And I think Simons is first and then Garnacho. So it depends on who we sold. Um, but if neither of them get sold, then I'm not sure that we do get Simons or Garnacho. So it's all dependent on other clubs. And the most likely way for Jackson to go, I think, is if he goes to Newcastle, and that's most likely to happen if they don't buy Sesko.
There is a little bit of a factual restriction on you. I think I'm right in saying at the moment in terms of the registering of players for European competition has to be offset by selling someone that was in your European squad last year in terms of it's like a one in, one out policy. Am I right in saying that?
There was something like that. This was part of because we got in trouble with UEFA when we were getting in trouble with them all the time. But this one was for yeah the PSR stuff essentially. But Dewsbury Hall was in our European squad last season. So I don't know if
That's what I'm saying. So
that
that so
counts.
he's a one out. You can have
Yeah, and the
another one
same
in.
with Nkunku and the same with Jackson. Um,
And you
so
also
yeah.
had someone registered who's gone to Strasbourg, I think, was named in the squad, quite cheeky. So that's counted as a one out.
Oh, the guy that we signed, Amugu, is that the guy that we signed in January that's never actually played for our first
Everybody's just
team?
went, who?
Yeah, of course. Including probably a lot of Chelsea supporters. But we signed him. It was a bit of a strange signing. We signed him in January and we said,
Gary, all your signings are largely quite strange, quite often, mate.
no, no, no. I'll tell you about that in a moment. No, we signed him in January and we said he's going to go to Strasbourg to replace Andre Santos, who's going to come back from Strasbourg in the summer, which he's done. So now they've switched. So actually, this is where like I'm a lot more upbeat this season because like we've made the signings in the right order, whereby we've made the first team signings first, and any of the other like kids and all of that. Well, we can do that later on. Whereas last season it was the other way around. And like you were listing players that we bought, I was like, I've never heard of these players.
Yeah, I
Like,
remember. Yeah,
yeah, and now it's like, right, I've heard of all of these people. I can see where they fit in. We've done it early. Obviously, that was part of like the Club World Cups, and now we've just started pre-season, but they're already there. And it's like that's how it should be. And now if we go and sign kids, it's like, I don't care. Do whatever else you want because you've done what we needed to do. Whereas last season we hadn't. You think last season when we did the pre-season pod, we hadn't signed Neto, we hadn't signed Sancho, we hadn't signed Joao Felix. We'd like done pre-season, and 2 weeks later on, they're all
so,
in the first team.
so you're not expecting. I mean, I joked about Isak, but we also wouldn't put it past you necessarily. It's worth saying, but you're not expecting anything beyond kind of what you said. If Jackson goes, it might be like it's a Simmons or Garnacho comes in, similar with the other player you said might leave with
Nkunku,
and Kunku.
Nkunku.
Thank you very much. I thought he did all right actually in the summer when he
Yeah, he
played.
did.
He showed good versatility.
Yeah, which is one of the things that we like. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't think he wants to stay at Chelsea because he wants to go somewhere and be first choice, which he should do because he's good enough. And so, but I don't think he's shown a bad attitude. He's got that, I'll get in trouble for saying this, but that stereotypical French style where he looks like he doesn't care, that bit laissez-faire kind of thing about him. But actually, he does care. It's just he doesn't always go chasing around after lost causes and everything like that. But he's a good player. He should get a move.
The views of the Planet FPL correspondents are not necessarily representative of the Planet FPL podcast. Cast your mind back to April. and conversation we might have had sort of in the springtime about Enzo Maresca. I think it was quite a bit of a split. I think it's fair to say amongst Chelsea fans. I'm
Yeah.
guessing qualifying for Champions League, winning Conference League, winning Club World Cup, everyone's quite happy now,
You'd
or
think so, wouldn't
not?
you? You know what football fans are like. I mean, yeah,
I do.
what more do you want? We came fourth in the table. We won the stupid competition that we were in, which is all that we could do.
Which you had to win, but you did
Depending
win.
on, yeah, and it's up to you to decide which of the two stupid competitions we won that I was just talking about when I said that. Because, like, yeah, we've done, like, there's nothing more that he could do. And what I did, which I don't think a lot of Chelsea fans did, but I decided to just to be fair to Maresca himself, and I just judged him based on the experience that he had when he came to Chelsea and my expectations of that. Whereas other people judged him on, well, this is what I want for Chelsea. It's like, well, fine, but that's not what we've appointed. We haven't appointed a Mourinho or a serial winner kind of thing. We appointed a guy with no experience. I'm like, right, there's going to be mistakes. I want to see progress. We made progress. He's shown like what he's about tactically, particularly in the PSG game. So I'm happy with him. Whereas before I was more like, I think he deserves to continue. Now I'm like, right, I'm happy with him. And hopefully the fans are the same, but you know what will happen. First time we drop points, it'll be this guy's a clown or whatever.
Okay, that might not be for a while though. Fixtures look quite promising at the start, mate.
Yeah. It's not a bad opening. All being in London is a help as well.
Yeah, particularly after your summer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, minimize the disruption. I have no idea if that was I can't imagine the Premier League did anything to help us in that regard. But anyway, it's just worked out that way. So that's nice. Um, yeah, it'll depend on the fitness of the players.
Is there an element? I mean, it's interesting. The four, West Ham a little bit, although
Mm.
it's four London derbies. Well, I suppose obviously for you, Fulham. I guess a different way of looking at it. West Ham won't like you. Fulham don't like you. Brentford don't like you. Sorry, I was
Yeah,
thinking about it from a Tottenham lens. So does that make those games on paper more difficult? Because
yeah,
I think
I'd say
if
so.
you're outside London, you go Palace, West Ham, Fulham, Brentford. As an open four
Mm.
set of fixtures, that's quite nice as a cluster when you group it in. But are they individually more difficult games for you? Because there's certainly at least three teams in there that don't like you.
Um, Fulham certainly is. They were like they won at Stamford Bridge for the first time in years. Like I don't know how many years last season, and they were like rightly so. They were like really celebrating it. Their fans were like really up for it, everything like that. They also don't like tossing, and he played that game, and so it was like it was huge for them. But then we did win at Craven Cottage, which was huge for us because that was part of what got us into the top four. But yeah, that for us is a difficult game. Brentford is there's not as much of a historic thing with them, and they're sort of well, they're kind of bastards to everybody, aren't they? So there is like a
Brentford are
element of that.
bastards to everybody. It's harsh, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I know, but it's true.
I don't know
But we
what
don't know
that
how they'll be
means.
this season. Well, they're probably the team I find that Such complains about the most with like time wasting and everything like
Oh,
that. And
don't worry. In game week 4, I'll really piss Suj off this year. I hope.
that's it. Um, so yeah, but they were always like, oh, you can go there and you can have a real game at Brentford, as Arsenal found out on the first game that Brentford ever played in the Premier League. It's like it's that kind of thing. So it's like I don't feel like we get any particularly special treatment. I think they'd like to
Okay.
beat us, um, but yeah, there is a yeah.
The away game
West
element
London
there
thing.
is it's not hostile in any way.
No,
No.
the ground's too. The people are quite nice. The ground's too small for any of that. West Ham is, but they hate Tottenham more than they hate us. And actually, I think they probably hate Arsenal more than they hate us as well. So there is a definitely a rivalry, but
Yeah, there'll be an
a little
element to
bit
that
further
though, isn't it?
down.
It's Friday night game, their first home game of
Their
the
first home
season.
game, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Longer term as well, there's this interesting sort of swing after a more couple more difficult games. I think it's fair to say you have Liverpool 7, Forest away 8. But around there, I think if you sort of start from Forest, depending on where they're sat at that point, we don't know kind of what's potentially going to happen in terms of their European involvement. But it could be a nice swing of fixtures from there. We remove obviously the game week 10 fixture at Tottenham because it's a go on, Gary, say it. 3 point loan.
That's what we always called it.
But
Yeah.
there's good fixtures after that sustained for a pretty continued period as well. So I think actually, yeah, your fixtures have landed pretty nicely, I think, Gary.
So yeah, that's when we actually start playing some of the promoted teams because this happened again last season where you did, oh yeah, your fixtures are good at the start, and it's like, well, they are, but then who do you look at there and go, right, we're going to smash them or we're going to smash them? It's like we don't. Again, this season we don't have that. It's like you'd fancy us to beat. You should fancy us because of where we are in terms to beat like Palace, West Ham, Fulham. But where do you look at and go, oh, you'll put three past them or anything like that? Maybe if the same thing happened with West Ham as last season, but I don't think it's going to. So I don't know. But then, yeah, as you're saying, there is where we start playing some of the promoted sides, which you do. Like the reality is, you have to look at them as the teams that you're going to put a few goals past, don't you?
Okay, let's start with FPL discussion. So prior to the Club World Cup, Cole Palmer's lost it. He's no longer a fancy asset. I say prior to Club World Cup, I meant Club World Cup final actually.
Mm.
After the Club World Cup final, he's essential. I gotta have Cole Palmer. He's tore up Paris Saint-Germain. I'll ask you the question, Gary. What percentage chance would you say of you not starting with him in your FPL team?
I mean, he's in my FPL team, so it could happen, but it's pretty no, it's pretty low. Percentage chance of me not starting with him is about 10%.
Pricing fair at 10.5?
I think so.
It's
Yeah.
interesting though, isn't it? Because if we'd have been pricing him up in say October, November last year, he wouldn't be coming in at
Mm.
10.5.
No, no, it'd be like 12, wouldn't he? But
Yeah.
no, is yeah. Uh yeah, it is interesting, but I think so. I was listening. I think it was in after the podcast that when you were talking to Mark, and he was saying about how like Chelsea need to start like getting the best out of him. I think that's completely wrong. I don't think that is what we should be doing. I don't think we want to become Cole Palmer FC. I think we want to get to a stage where we can perform well, even if he's not the one that's scoring the goals or getting the assists. And then if he is, then that's good as well. But I don't want us to be relying on him. I don't want him to be. I'm happy for him to be the talisman. Most teams do have a talisman, but I do also want to see it shared around a bit. I don't want it all to be on Cole Palmer's shoulders. I want to see like Joao Pedro contributing, or even Pedro Neto, or Enzo, or Cucurella, or whatever. So I don't want him to go back to what it was under Pochettino, where it really was Cole Palmer FC. Um, with that said, obviously, I still want him to get a return every game. 'Cause, yeah, that's just well, it's good for him, and it is obviously better for the team. But I just don't think it's necessarily as much of a problem for Chelsea if that doesn't happen.
Who do you think your captain game week one?
Well, I really want to start with Haaland, so it'd be between Palmer and Haaland. At the moment, I've got it on Haaland, but
Okay.
I
I
think
take I
Palmer's
take it
a
you'd
shout.
rank Haaland and Salah above Palmer for game week one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I'd say so.
that's completely fair. I agree with that. How would you? There's obviously a growing kind of feeling within certainly sections of the FPL community, the idea of going with neither of these and spreading the money. The issue with that is then you start laser focusing on lots of different routes in terms of captaincy. For that group of people, how would you rate Palmer for captaincy in game week one versus, say, Liverpool alternatives like Ekateke, Gakpo, Verts, Jared Bowen away to Sunderland, a Tottenham forward at home to Burnley, a Chris Wood at home to Brentford? How Watkins even at home to maybe a Newcastle that's not maybe in the best shape at the moment? Where does Palmer rank versus all of them?
Um, I think because you know what he's capable of, he's pretty high. If Tottenham had a sort of talent, if Tottenham still had Kane or
Yeah,
Son as he was then, you'd go, well, that's
yeah.
clearly that's better. But Tottenham just don't have that kind of player at the moment. It might like somebody might step up and do that, but how are you going to know that for game week one? You're not going to. I don't know.
By
Maybe
listening
you
to
are,
me,
but
but I agree with you, by the way, at the moment.
yeah, you're not going to go. You're going to go right. Kudos, good price. But you're not going to go. I'll captain him over Palmer. So he is quite high up, isn't
I
he?
can say now I would not be captain of Tottenham playing game
No,
week one. No
there
way.
you go. That's it. And it's not. It's because you just don't have the player of that. Yeah, that sort of explosiveness. So um, I'd probably still fancy him over like Bowen, mainly because Bowen's away at Sunderland. You still don't know. Like Newcastle have still got a good team. So captaining against them, I'd say that Palmer's still pretty high up there. Um,
I think in my thoughts at the moment, it would be Palmer versus one of the two Liverpool boys. And this conversation is focusing. Let's say
Mm.
that non-Salah here, right? So for me at the moment, if I had to lock in now, it would be I'd arguably sort of Palmer versus Gakpo maybe at this moment.
So I'd say that he's probably because he's a bit more of a known, yeah, is why you like Ekiteke is like you don't quite know like is he gonna play 90? Is he
With a
just gonna
problem in
play
terms of
60s?
investing in
Like
Ekiteke, I think a lot of people are looking at it now as well and going, well, if Isak goes there, I've suddenly got a really big
yeah,
problem I've got
yeah.
to deal with.
Yeah, whereas Wirtz is a bit more um you know that he's gonna play. You don't know is he gonna hit the ground running, how exactly he's gonna fit into the system. So there's a bit more of a risk, whereas you do know that Palmer's definitely going to start for Chelsea. He's going to be one of our most attacking players. Him and Joao Pedro looked like perfectly in tandem in the Club World Cup final. So
Well, thank you for
yeah,
the segue because should I have included Joao Pedro in that list of players I mentioned?
I'd struggle to captain him over Palmer. Um, and we don't actually know where he's. I think he's going to start. I think the way that he played in the 2.5 games that he played for us, like you're going to want to start. Chelsea are going to want to start him. But do we also start Delap? It's like it could happen. We could go for like an attacking. It could be instead of Neto. It could be with Neto. It's like, um, I don't know. I think there's a little bit more of a risk there, and he's maybe also if it's not quite going well, they're more likely to take Joao Pedro off for like Delap if Delap was on the bench than they are with Cole Palmer. So Palmer's a much safer option than Joao Pedro. I mean, that is obviously reflected in the price as well.
Yep.
I think I'd assume if you're paying 7.5 for Joao Pedro, you must have somebody else in your squad that's a, a higher value that would be a better captain.
Yeah, but again, if you're taking on this Salah Haaland route, you start looking at 4 or 5 different options, I think, in a
Hmm.
number of weeks. And if you didn't go for Palmer for whatever reason,
Yeah, but at the moment, well, actually, I
I
need
can't see anyone going without Salah and Haaland and not
no.
going for Palmer. I can't see anyone
If
going without all three.
no, neither can I. But then, yeah, I'd. Have you seen the ownership for Palmer and Joao Pedro?
Well, the Palmer ownership doesn't surprise me at all. But yeah, I'm going to ask you that on terms of Joao Pedro. Over half the teams, as it stands, yeah, I think the FPL community, that number is a lot lower. But then I think in terms of the FPL community, I'd say Palmer's probably more than the overall game at the moment.
Yeah. The reality is, I do think that Joao Pedro is a little bit underpriced. So I can see
Go
why
on.
people want to go there. Well, if he is going to start as like, and I think he is going to start a lot of the games for us. I think he's going to be first choice, and it doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to be first choice centre forward because he can play in a lot of other positions. That was part of why they wanted him because of his versatility. It's almost the same as like Diogo Jota was at Liverpool, where he could play in a few positions, and it's like, and you were like, yeah, he can get himself into the first team, but they could play him as the centre forward, or they could play him a bit more withdrawn. Kind of, he doesn't have to be a backup just because he is the backup left winger. He can also start left wing and then move to centre forward if we need him to, or he can play in the 10. Um, I suppose also like Barcola at PSG. There's a few players that are, like they fulfill that kind of role. Um, and if he is gonna, and as I say, I think he's going to start quite a lot of the games, and we're one of the best teams in the country. So 7.5 is I think it's cheap, and he seems quite dynamic. He wants to shoot, as we saw in the Club World Cup. Um, he does do a bit of defensive work as well, but I think with Palmer around him as well, so he's got one of the most creative players in the league playing with him. So 7.5, I think it's cheap.
So that's interesting because a, a lot of the theme I see in like on socials is I don't understand João Pedro's ownership. And then you're sitting there at the same time thinking, actually, he's underpriced. And I'd add
Yeah.
in that I think if you watch the Club World Cup games, you're like, yeah, yeah, I like that. But there's certainly a caveat in terms of the restriction of minutes. I mean, he was basically playing sort of an hour for you. And admittedly,
Mm.
he'd not had the training because he joined midway through the tournament. And actually, I think his performances under that circumstance were remarkable, actually. So that is a narrative that says, well, actually, now he's training with them, he could be even better. There's also a narrative of he's come in, he's hit the ground running, he's on adrenaline. Right now, it's calm. What does that mean? the impact of the lap being a bit more settled as well. The issue I've got at the moment is when the pricing came up, I think across the game, one of the first things for me was I really want a forward in that 7.5 bracket because there's a number of them that could be
Mm.
quite interesting. But the closer it gets, the less I like any of them. So like Solanke, I think me for me originally was like, yep, really really like that. I'm concerned that he's at time recording he's not featured really in the
Yeah, yeah.
pre-season. And there's obviously the impact of the Paris Saint-Germain game in the sense of, oh, he might play against Paris Saint-Germain, but we shouldn't rule out Richarlison starting against Burnley being a possibility. Chris Wood has now got a little bit of threat of like Igor Jesus. They've scored what they at time recording Wednesday morning. Didn't score again last night. So they've now scored one goal in 6 pre-season friendlies. And I think he's one that I definitely know that I would want to sell on in later weeks. Mateta's had great form in pre-season, but I don't love the first 3 fixtures, which includes obviously playing at your place in game week 1. And you just default back to it and go, actually, yeah, Joao Pedro's all right here, isn't it? I'm almost put off by the ownership more than I'm put off by him.
Yeah, because also if he doesn't score for the first game or two, he's going to get mass sold, and you've already lost point 0.2 or whatever. So yeah, I get that, and you feel like you're not gaining as much because so many people have got him. But I don't know. I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna start. I
Yeah.
th-
I mean, others at 7.5 didn't mention Visser. It's
well, you're
up
not
in
going to
here.
start with him, are you? No.
And obviously, Arsenal bought Gyökeres now in terms of impact on habits.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I can't imagine people going
from
with
suddenly
Havertz.
thinking from that 6 when it started, I mean, yeah, I'm going to want one of them. Now, I'm not even sure it'd be any of them. Um, Joao Pedro's come more and more into my thoughts the closer we get, I
And
think.
I originally, yeah, he wasn't in mine, and then the same things happened with me as well. And the reality is, a lot of people probably didn't watch the Club World Cup, whereas I did. And obviously, I'm a Chelsea fan as well, so I am kind of biased. But I thought him and Palmer looked incredible together. And that's what
Yeah,
you
there
want to
was an
see.
instant link up there that you could.
Yeah,
It was, I don't know. Some people just have a connection straight
yeah,
away.
that's it. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Because even the goal that Palmer scored where Joao Pedro doesn't touch the ball. The goal still doesn't happen if it's not for the run that Joao Pedro makes outside him, which enables Palmer to feint to pass it to him, sends the defender slightly. And with Palmer, you only need the defender to move that much, and that's giving him the space he needs. It's
And
like
there was the link up for the one. I think it was still at 0-0. Palmer should have scored
the one
before
that
he did
he,
score as well. Yeah.
that's right, exactly. So, like, and obviously Palmer assisted him for Joao Pedro's goal. So yeah, they just seem like perfectly in tandem with each other. And that's actually like some of the running that Joao Pedro was doing. Nicholas Jackson can't do that. Or won't do that. And I don't think
Do you think?
Delap can do it either.
Do you think you start with Joao Pedro?
I think I will. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a maybe for me. Okay. Robert Sanchez, I think is
Mm.
going to be popular. It seems difficult to pick up a 4.5 that's great at the
I
moment.
don't know when I last heard Robert Sanchez and Popular go together, but
I no,
I'm
I
glad
think
to
he
hear
is.
it.
I think he is. There's a number of reasons for that, and that kind of features more on the defenders, and we'll come back onto it. He's worth saying. I think he had largely a good tournament for you, and made some really good saves, particularly later in the tournament for you. I guess the main question here would be that people would want to know because they know what he is now. Is there any chance you're buying a goalkeeper? Because
It doesn't sound like it anymore. They did like it was fairly, I don't know. They were in for Maignan from
yeah,
Milan, and then they couldn't agree on a fee, so they said, no, fine, then we're not going to. So they'll stick with Sanchez.
could we?
Um,
I mean, there's been quite a bit of Manchester United Donnarumma chat going on in the background. Is there any chance you'd go and try and intercept something like that suddenly?
there was a rumor that's about Donnarumma originally, but I haven't heard anything concrete that we're going to do that. Um, I think Sanchez is going to start as the number one, and I think he's going to keep the number one. Now, the problem that you have, I think, is that Maresca might do what he did last season and play Jorgensen in a couple of games, particularly against promoted teams, the games
So
he
yeah,
wanted to.
I get what you're saying. So just very randomly, Sunderland at home, game week 9,
Right.
Sanchez doesn't play, and then therefore it looks like a shit run of fixtures suddenly.
That's it. And they're all like this is when the Champions League's going to have started. So it'd be like, well, Sanchez is going to play in the Champions League game, and then Jorgensen comes in for a league game, and then it's back to Sanchez. And so that is a concern. We're not quite going to be doing the same thing as I assume. We're not going to be doing the same thing and have Jorgensen as like the European goalkeeper, but Maresca seemed willing to play him like particularly when we had midweek games against promoted teams, and it didn't always go well, like Ipswich away. And we've got another one of them because we've got Leeds in the midweek in December. But there's yeah, like Sunderland, I think was just either just before or just after a European game, and so I don't know. I can't guarantee you that Sanchez is going to play 38 games if he's fit. In fact, I
Okay.
don't think he is.
Well, because a number are going there, particularly those who don't want to bench boost earlier, going right. Him 4.0.
And it depends on when you're going to wildcard. But I think, yeah, to start the season, I think it's absolutely fine. I think decent run. He's going to be our starting goalkeeper. He's nowhere near as bad as people make out.
Yeah,
Touch wood.
I think if people want to go there, I think it's safe to start with. Though I also think it's a little bit of a default as a consequence of the other defensive players. Now, I think many of us think, Gary, that in terms of your defensive numbers, they're probably going to improve again in terms of
Hmm.
goals conceded, clean sheets, etc. But I feel the closer we get, the more there's kind of a growing feeling of looking at Cucurella at 6 million versus the others at that price, seeing him often having a tuck in as more like a left-sided centre back in a lot of the summer games, and questioning whether he's worth it because he's not someone who's going to be high on headed clearances in the box and stuff like that. He'll be involved in that, but he's not someone we can regularly expect. I think to be hitting DEFCON stuff.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I don't think. I think that yeah, as you say, that's just not how he plays. I think he's brilliant, but yeah, he probably doesn't quite fit into the new point system. Um, and as you say, he might find himself tucking in a fair bit. So,
Okay, so how do you see him versus your Van Dijks, Gabriels, Eight Norris, etc.?
um, well, with Van Dijk, you know that he's going to play all the time, and Cucurella probably is, but there is going to come a point where we're going to have to rest him because he just plays
I don't think
so
that's an
much. But I
issue at the
think he's
start.
not at the start. It's not.
No.
No, as I said, I can't imagine Hatter coming in and just starting straight away. But I do think the others are probably a bit more magnets for the points. With us, um, it does depend on how we play because we do use him in different ways. Is I think I suppose it's that as well. It's a little bit less consistent in terms
Okay.
of FPL.
So then I think that draws people for if they decide no Cucurella, it draws them essentially to between two, Sanchez or Levi Colwill.
Hmm.
And that feels boring. It feels like a pick, and he's sitting in mine at the moment. But it's like it's there because I want Chelsea coverage, not because I believe that's the right choice. Essentially,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Sanchez is necessarily a well, I mean, how exciting is a
no,
goalkeeper
Colwill.
pick
I mean, is
anyway?
the
But
boring one.
Colwell's
Yeah,
definitely a boring pick. Yeah, um, he's he's all right, but yeah, you just think there's probably Colwell. Is he five or is he?
it's five. Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably 4.5s that are going to do as well as him.
Oh, I saw Wesley
Yeah.
Fofana's kicking the ball.
So that probably gives us about 2 weeks until we see that Wesley Fofana's out injured, doesn't it? But
Let's hope
hmm.
not, mate.
No, I hope not as well. But he's not going to be starting the season.
Okay, quick fires on the rest of the defenders. Any love for Reece James at 5.5?
No.
Shame. Any
His
love for
position's too insecure. You can't pay 5.5 for a player that you don't even know is going to start. Like he played more than he played in years last season, and that still wasn't that many league games. So you can't pay 5.5.
Okay. Any love for Malagusto at 5?
Again, too much of a rotation risk. They'll sometimes play Reece there, might go back to playing another centre back there, and might even play Caicedo there to invert into midfield. This is like
Who's that? Who's
you'd
ahead
almost rather
between?
play.
Go on, go on.
Well, I was going to say, if you're going to pay the five, pay it for Colwell because you know he's going to start.
Yeah. So therefore, no Chalobah either. Is he ahead of Adarabioyo?
It's not no, it's not an ahead or not ahead. It's a horses for courses kind of thing. It
Right.
depends who we're playing against. Like, so
Okay.
in the last two games of last season, we played Forest and Man United, and Tosin started. because of the way that Højlund and Chris Wood play. But then in the Club World Cup, Chalobah started against PSG because Dembele is a completely different kind of forward to Højlund and Wood. So I think it'll come down to what Maresca thinks is going to be more beneficial on the day, which I think is an absolutely fine way of doing things. And it worked because we kept clean sheets in all of those games. So you can't tell me it didn't work.
Do you think you'll start with a Chelsea defensive asset?
I do want to, but it
Yeah, I think
is,
most people feel like that, but it
yeah,
might not be the right answer. That's almost how it's beginning
mm,
to feel.
yeah, it is. It's tough trying to work out which one. At the moment, I've gone back to Cucurella, but then I'm not so sure that he's going to
If
necessarily
if
have the
if I
attacking.
pick Colwell, which I might do, I feel like I'm picking Chelsea. I'm not picking Colwell. I'm
Yeah,
picking. I want a coverage of Chelsea, and with Defcons and stuff now. I don't know how important that is, but yeah,
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 no, I agree.
it's want to invest in you defensively, but not necessarily loving any of them assets. That's how that feels to me. I think others are feeling similar.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Casado. 5.5. Wouldn't normally have this sort of conversation with you, mate, but bloke's a fucking monster in midfield, mate.
Yeah, he's brilliant. And he was one of the ones they were highlighting when they announced the DEFCON and the other thing about how it like makes him a viable asset, which is true, but I also just think the reality is with Chelsea is like we could be a good attacking side. You might want Palmer and Joao Pedro, and then what are you going to do? What another one? Another midfielder to go in there? And you don't want to pay 5.5 and put him on the bench. Why? You're not going to buy a Chelsea asset to bench them, surely. So it's But it might be that we're not actually that good attacking, and actually he is one of the better options. I don't know, but I wouldn't start with him.
I've said to Suj pretty much that. I've said I wouldn't be surprised if he's the best 5.5, but I
Mm,
wouldn't go near it because I'll very quickly find myself. What if I suddenly in a position where I'm like, oh shit, I do want Cucurella, Palmer,
yeah,
and Joao Pedro, or
yeah,
Esteval really
exactly.
steps up, or Gittins, or Garnacho 6.5 shout out. Like, yeah,
Pedro Neto was really good in the Club World Cup. So yeah,
he was. Talk to me about him.
so he's 7, I believe. And Maresca really likes him, and they really like his attitude. Conversely to like Joao Felix. I don't know if you remember last season he got booked at Tottenham. Um, and he then got taken off, and he sort of had his head in his hands, and the reason was because that got him a ban, and it also meant that he had to go on a European trip, which was the one to Kazakhstan, because he couldn't play in the next league game. But he went and he played 45 minutes, and they were really happy with him because he was like he just got on with it. He did it, no fuss, played like the 45, and then um,
I
came
didn't
home
see it,
kind of
Gary,
thing.
because I had my
Oh,
head.
sorry, I've just lost you.
Gary's lost me. That's very, very convenient.
I need to change the batteries in my headphones.
Gary's back. I was going to say that I didn't see that because I had my head in my hands for the whole of that game from around about the 15-minute mark, mate. Um,
Yeah.
what about Enzo Fernandez 6.5 option? I think most people think that's coming zero point 0.5 more than they were hoping.
Yeah, I think it probably has, to be honest. With the addition of like, well, mainly Joao Pedro, who can play like that slightly deeper role. I don't know if we're going to see Enzo sometimes in a bit more of a withdrawn role. Um, it's a bit of a risk. It's like you don't know. Is he going to be box crashing? He's not really crashing, is he? But is he going to be arriving edge of the box and stuff like that?
He arrives at the right times, I would say. And you
He
trust him when
does,
he gets in the position, I think.
yeah, you do. But it's also a similar thing to Caicedo, isn't it? It's like, well, I think Joao Pedro will be a better asset. Palmer will definitely be a better asset. And then if you do want a defender, then you just can't fit him in.
Okay,
Um,
so Neto and Fernandez are no's, are they?
I'd say so. Neto's got quite a bit of competition, although I would say that if Jackson does get sold, then they do consider Neto as one of the options at centre forward, and this is actually why they're not against selling Jackson because they did play him there last season in certain games, and
Well, we know
they,
Palmer could
they don't
even
mind
play
it.
as a 9 in certain games. I think with the lap there as well, you're only talking about kind of an injury crisis
Hmm.
scenario for you here. Okay. Any of them other
Yeah.
midfielders appeal at all?
Do we have other midfielders?
About 50 of them, mate.
But they're actually going to play in the first team. Like, I don't think we do. Like, Lavia,
Uh,
no. Like, Andre
no,
Santos,
probably
no,
not.
as
I mean,
well.
should we keep an eye on Andre Santos at 4.5 if he suddenly walked into injuries? I'm thinking further down the line here.
Potentially, yeah. But we would need to have walked into quite a lot of injuries. Um, the idea is that we've got a big squad so that they can share minutes so that people don't get as tired. And that's what you're going to need to do when you've got as many games as us and when you didn't have a break like us. So they'll probably all see minutes, but not like um not like heavy minutes or whatever. Like not Andre Santos is going to be playing 90s. I don't even think he's going to be playing 70s, but I think you might see a few 20-minute appearances and then the occasional start, but no, not really an option.
Okay. Tyreek George, we think will go on loan, do we?
It sounds like they're gonna, yeah, they'll let him go, and that might be part of whether we're gonna get Garnacho or not, who doesn't fit into the versatility thing particularly, but they do just like him as a player, and they think that the price is really good, and that's one of the key sort of criteria.
Okay. All right. Who's going to put it this game week one lineup? You or me?
Uh, you can start if you want.
Jorgensen in goal. I'm joking. Sanchez in goal. I think
Yeah,
Cucurella, Colwill, no doubts.
yeah,
One of Adarabioyo and Chalobah, but
yeah. So that's what I was trying to
toss a
decide.
coin.
So I've put Tosin in at the
Could be
moment.
both in theory,
Yeah, it could. That's
and
correct
then
because then
Cucurella plays higher.
exactly, and then Chalobah tucks in like when they make it into a back three. It tends to have not worked. So I looked at when we played Palace away, it was actually Achiampong. It's not going to be him. And Tosin was on the bench, and Chalobah was at Crystal Palace.
Yeah, of course, in there as well. Right,
Yeah. So,
I'm gonna say without the information, I'm gonna say Chalobah is
okay.
more likely. I'll come back to right back because it kind of depends in terms of what's in front.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, I'm gonna say Caicedo, Lavia,
Yep.
Palmer, Neto, Joao Pedro, and then that leaves question marks on other little bits. Like I'm in no idea if Bino Gittens would start at this moment off the left wing or not. I'm gonna guess
No.
maybe yes,
Okay.
but I certainly wouldn't consider for FPL. I think if it's on that structure, then I'd say probably Reece James right back.
Okay. Because then you've missed Enzo.
No, Enzo with Caicedo.
Oh, because you said
So James
Lavia.
moving in from right back. I know he
Right.
started
Okay.
centre midfield in the final. James moving in from right back. Cucurella tucking in. Enzo then kind of joining in with your top line with Palmer.
Mm, that's one of the options that I've got written down. But I don't know if they'll look to play Enzo deeper. I mean, what I would love to see, I don't think that they'll do this, but I would love to see a front four of Delap with Palmer, Joao Pedro, and Neto behind him. I think we'll see it at some point. Not necessarily game week one, but I'd like to think
Well,
that
it
that is
definitely
a
could be.
plan.
Delap 9, João Pedro 10 or
Yeah.
another. Palmer right. Neto goes left.
And then you'd play Gusto because he's going to then provide the width on the right,
Spot on.
and which would then mean that Cucurella is going to tuck in as a centre back, more
I did a
likely.
piece that I know you watched for our patrons after the Club World Cup final in terms of the different ways that you can set up tactically and these kind of five key personnel: Cucurella,
Mm,
Colwell, Enzo, Caicedo, and Palmer. It might be that João Pedro maybe becomes the sixth. But essentially, when we see your lineups, we can now understand what will happen. We see the lineup and go, okay, I think right,
yeah,
Gusto's going to do the touchline because he's not going to convert into midfield. But to know these sort of things before it starts is really complicated.
yeah,
That's how it
that's right.
feels to me. Because
Exactly that.
Maresca's mind, I think, works a little bit different. He's more in the, you try and read Pep's mind. It's like, no, we've got it wrong. Maresca's more of that ilk, isn't he? He'll have his own thoughts on what he wants to do with an individual game,
So then
and
what you get, yeah,
He'll change from
absolutely.
game to game.
So what I find now is that then I remember this after the Conference League final, there was like a guy in the pub who's like, he's had a few obviously, and he's like, oh, I don't understand why we're doing this. And I'm like, I didn't say this
You're
because I couldn't
wasting
be
your
asked.
breath, Gary.
Exactly. I couldn't be asked to have the row, but I was like, why do you think that's a problem with Maresca and not a problem with you? Like, who do you think understands this more than you? It's like, you're not going to understand it. I mean, you can try, but I try to understand it and I do understand more than I think the average person, even then. Like, half the time, I'm like, what are we doing here? It's only when you see it, you go, all right, I get this.
Where will you finish?
So what we should look to do, I think, is actually, maybe it's a bit of a wanky phrase, control the controllables, which means that
That's really
two,
wanky.
it is, I told you. 2 seasons ago, we got 63 points, and last season we got 69 points. So really what we want to do is get to like 75. Now, that could finish as third or it could finish as fourth. But what we should really be doing is actually looking at our own points total and not going, oh, we want to make sure that we come third or whatever.
So a hypothetical, let's say Manchester United have an incredible season and get to 80 points,
Mm,
and you finish fifth, and it's enough for Champions League again, maybe, but it's on 75 points.
yeah.
You're happy with that because you're seeing a progression again.
So I would be because of what I've just said, but I bet you a lot of our fans wouldn't. They'll go, oh, we've gone backwards. We've gone down a position. You go, but we've done better. And that's all you can do,
I
really. All you
think
can do is do better.
what I would say is the fact that you've put these couple of trophies on the board, and unusually for your club, you'd gone a few years without one, that it will change back the narrative for many Chelsea
Mm,
fans in terms of expectation of winning.
that's right. Yeah. But we're not going to win the league anyway. We're not going to win the league.
Okay, that's interesting because I would think the other three teams of the top four from last season would think that they can.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to think, Gary, that you'll finish top four.
I think
Everybody.
we'll
In fact,
finish top
everybody
four.
thinks that that shop is kind of closed already.
I think that it'll be the same top four. Yeah.
As I'd so do I, but I've also said on other podcasts that that tells me that whenever we think this, invariably something changes the narrative.
And that's good for the league.
It
And
is.
I hope it does, but I hope it's not us. I hope it's Liverpool or someone that drops out.
All right. Good luck. Anything you want to plug before we finish?
Um, no, no, nothing. It's only 3 weeks since I was on and nothing's happened. So no, nothing. Sorry.
Good stuff. On Correspondent Week tomorrow, Manchester City and Johnny Pringle will be opening up our day. We've got Sean Norton on Everton, Bradley Parker on Wolves, and Lee Jackson on Aston Villa. Just leaving to say thanks very much, Gary. Good luck for the season. Be nice to each other, everyone. Cue music, please, man child.